When Prince Harry's name had first appeared on the prospective presenters list for the 2024 Juno Awards, more than a few anxious murmurs circulated amongst the organizers. The once beloved renegade royal had become anything but predictable in recent years, openly waging a relentless publicity war against his own family through a deluge of memoir grenades and self-indulgent media tours. For the husband of Canadian-born Meghan Markle to appear at one of his adopted homeland's biggest pop culture spectacles offered plenty of obvious upsides. The Juno's broadcast would undoubtedly receive a much-needed shot of mainstream star power amidst the struggling music industry's desperate bid to remain culturally relevant. Not to mention the lucrative opportunities to cross-promote Harry and Meghan's latest business ventures. Still, the baggage and controversy virtually guaranteed to accompany any appearance by the Duke of Sussex couldn't be ignored. The rise of the #AbolishThemonarchy movement alone had become a raging cultural firestorm, rendering the British royals effectively radioactive for a significant swath of progressive youth audiences. Outrage over the once-celebrated couple's self-importation into the ultra-rich celebrity elite had been bubbling for years. Ever since their catastrophic slap of the 9-year-old Princess Charlotte during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebration had been witnessed by a televised audience of billions, even their most ardent fans had trouble denying the escalating pattern of unbecoming conduct. Could the Junos risk providing a potential platform for more staged outbursts and agenda-pushing theatrics designed to vilify Harry's own family? In the end, velvet-lipped assurances from Harry's representatives about maintaining a respectful and non-combative poise ultimately swayed the organizers into extending an olive branch. With ironclad contractual clauses about respecting the Juno's sanctity purportedly in place, the tormented California expat was officially penciled for a presenter role celebrating one of the evening's music philanthropy honorees. Of course, all of those high-minded presumptions collapsed within mere moments of Harry actually gracing the stage to rousing if somewhat muted applause for what was surprisingly his first televised appearance in Canada. Stepping up to the microphone looking unusually confident despite his self-imposed banishment from the House of Windsor, the disgraced Duke held court with a familiarly impish grin. For a split second, it seemed plausible he might adhere to expectations by sticking to discussing the charitable work that night's honorees represented. Instead, Harry instantly pivoted into the kind of bitter, grievance-saddled tirade that had repeatedly burned whatever public goodwill he'd once retained. "Thank you all for the warm welcome, though I must admit it's not the warmth I've typically received as a member of the most undeserving, hypocritical, shameless family of public parasites in history." The lively crowd instantly fell into an uneasy hush, exchanging confused murmurs and side eyes as their brains slowly processed Harry's unexpected verbal grenade. Unfortunately, it proved only the first minor detonation in what would soon become an explosive night for the Junos and the Duke's detractors. Yes, I'm speaking of course about the inbred carbon footprints I myself used to be so closely associated with, the royal family of delusion. Harry sneered as the first sounds of grumbles and isolated boos began rippling through the arena. An institution so determined to jealously guard its increasingly irrelevant stranglehold over the British populace that it would gladly destroy anyone, even its own flesh and blood, who dares breathe fresh air into the monarchy's toxic traditions. A family legacy built upon oppressing entire nations, hoarding generational wealth stolen from colonial atrocities, and upholding such profound immoralities as emotional impedance. Whether it was the former prince airing legitimate grievances about experiencing coldness and isolation within palace confines, or simply weaponizing proxy outrage over political correctness, was anyone's guess. What was unmistakable though was his rapidly intensifying hostility, as if he'd been holding in a dam of rage specifically for the bright spotlight of the Juno Awards stage. "Oh, they're perfectly civil and practiced in their public facade," Harry spat, now clenching the microphone in a knuckle-whitening grip. Waving and dressing up in overpriced anachronisms while drilling their severely damaged psyches into meekly accepting any level of depravity inflicted upon them. By this point, the venue's ambient noise had elevated into a raging din of boos, angry chants, and bewildered shouts over where this madness was heading. To those not acquainted with the concept of someone not merely biting but outright consuming the hand that used to feed them, Harry's embittered spiral must have appeared even more jarringly deranged. The audience's reaction to Prince Harry's unhinged, expletive-laden rant attacking the royal family at the 2024 Juno Awards rapidly devolved from confused shock into outright chaos and fury. What began as tentative boos and murmurs of disbelief soon escalated into a roaring torrent of anger and calls for security to remove the renegade prince from the stage. Here are some of the key details about the escalating audience pandemonium. Initial disbelief and boos. When Harry first began leveling insults at the monarchy as a family of parasites and public delusions, the celebrity-packed crowd seemed unsure of how to react. Scattered boos and cries of "what the hell" could be heard as people processed that he was indeed launching an unprovoked verbal assault on his own relatives. As the deranged rant accelerated into more pointed attacks calling the royals inbred carbon footprints and accusing them of colonial atrocities, the boos rapidly amplified in volume and frequency. Footage shows many attendees standing up and cupping hands around their mouths to directly heckle the rambling prince. Angry chants and slogan shouting. It didn't take long for much of the audience to coalesce around derisive chants drowning out Harry's raving words. "Get off the stage," and "Go home, traitor," became the most repeated refrains as shock turned to open hostility towards the spectacle he was creating. Signs and banners with slogans like "No more royal elites" and "Modern monarchy is moronic" began waving as further evidence that Harry had ignited simmering resentment towards the royal family among progressives and anti-monarchists. Violence narrowly averted. According to witnesses, it was around the time that Harry made aspersions about the royals' emotional constipation and severely damaged psyches that the first projectiles began raining down towards the stage. Reports indicate a barrage of lighters, half-filled beer cups, and at least one disco ball trophy was thrown in his direction. Though clearly shaken by the near-missile impacts around him, the ranting prince only dug his heels in deeper, prompting a sea of fans towards the front to begin climbing over security barriers towards the stage as if ready to physically extract him themselves. Security swarming the stage. With the situation spiraling completely out of control, it quickly became apparent that drastic safety measures would be required to shut down Harry's tirade and defuse the increasingly hostile atmosphere. Dozens of burly security operatives could be seen swarming the stage apron, some forcibly pushing back the angriest front-row agitators.